A $1.3 trillion omnibus budget that preserves and expands Obama-era initiatives has conservatives wondering, with Republicans like this, who needs Democrats? Is it time to turn on Donald Trump? We will analyze the budget and the state of conservative policy alongside Howie Carr, author of What Really Happened, How Donald J. Trump Saved America from Hillary Clinton. Then, 3 cheers for John Bolton. I'm Michael Knowles, and this is The Michael Knowles Show. We're here. You can tell I'm not in my regular broom closet of the Ben Shapiro Show. I'm in New York. I'm going to be in New York for the next week or so. I'll be giving a speech at Yeshiva University tonight, and then I'll be giving a speech at Ithaca College on Thursday. The main takeaway from this, of course, is that if you don't write a book, then people will invite you to speak. If you don't use words at all, then people will assume you're good at using words and come give a talk. We're going to be talking tonight about why the left is so humorless, why the right is so funny right now, and the left has absolutely no sense of humor. And then the speech on Thursday will be titled, Give Me That Old-Time Religion, America's Christian Foundation. So two related topics in this beautiful comedy of our lives. But, you know, if you're around, maybe I'll see you around the streets of New York. A good place to check would be all of the cigar bars. We have a lot to talk about today. I want to thank our friends at National Review, by the way. National Review is very kindly hosting me. I was going to do my podcast from just the streets of New York, just kind of walking around, looking at the sky, you know, tattered clothing. But they've been very warm and they've taken me in. That's very nice of them. So thank you again to NR. I've already lost my ad for today. Before we get started, I have to thank a wonderful sponsor of ours. They've been with us a while. You hear me talk about them all the time. That would be Dollar Shave Club. Look at this shave. I've been on an airplane. I'm traveling. I'm haggard, but I still love Dollar Shave Club because they are always there to keep me looking and feeling fresh. DollarShaveClub.com delivers everything that you need to look, feel, and smell your best. It's more than just razors. You've heard me talk about this before. They started out, they're great razors. It is really the best razor that I have ever used. And I don't usually skimp on razors because, you know, those things will rip your whole face up. This is the moneymaker, folks. So Dollar Shave Club also has great Dr. Carver's shave butter. It's not quite a shaving cream, you know, like that big poofy stuff that your grandfather used. It's not gel for like soy boys. It's the shave butter. Very nice, very smooth. They have everything you need, though, to look, feel, and smell your best. Shampoo, body wash, toothpaste. The razors are amazing. It is a must-have experience. In the old days, you'd have to go to the pharmacy or the drugstore. You'd say, where are the razors, where are the toothpaste? And then you'd end up, guys, in the wrong aisle. You know, that aisle you're not supposed to go down. You feel very awkward. You feel like, oh, God, people are judging me. What am I doing here? Forget that. It's 2018. Treat yourself well. Have it delivered right to your door. You never have to worry about going to the drugstore again. I'm a millennial, you know this. I like to be fused to whatever sitting device, whatever vessel that I am in. This is really excellent for that. For a mind-blowing experience, join Dollar Shave Club today. For just $5 with free shipping, you will get the 6-blade executive razor plus trial sizes of the shave butter, body cleanser, and that's something called a one-wipe Charlie. Should I just let you use your imagination for what that is? I'm not going to go into a long explanation about this. It's called the one-wipe Charlie. I think you're probably sophisticated enough to have an idea of what that is. You know, you got to be covered head to toe and everything in the middle. So you will keep the blades coming for a few bucks more per month. Get yours at dollarshaveclub.com/Covfefe, Covfefe, dollarshaveclub.com/Covfefe. You're going to get all this great stuff for a very low price. Don't say I never did nothing for you. Okay. We should get into this. I'm going to analyze the budget a little bit later in the show. Conservatives are very upset about this. Conservatives are very rightly upset about all this. My whole Twitter feed over the weekend was just people saying, should we turn on Trump now? Is this it? Are conservatives done with Trump? And I did keep going back to this question of gratitude. We've gotten some good stuff out of Trump. And also, he saved us from that hellish nightmare of a Hillary Clinton presidency, which we shouldn't underestimate how terrible that would be. I did an interview with radio host Howie Carr because Howie is the author of a new book, What Really Happened, How Donald J. Trump Saved America from Hillary Clinton. Very nice, subtle title. It's a really fun book. I highly recommend reading it. I talked to Harry about this before the budget came out, and so you shouldn't judge Howie as though this were coming out after the budget. But here are his thoughts. He knows Donald Trump. He's known him for years. He was the last radio person to speak to him before the election results came in 2016. So let's cut to Howie for his perspective. Then we'll look at the budget, and then we'll talk about how great John Bolton is. Howie, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Michael.
The book is called What Really Happened: How Donald J. Trump Saved America from Hillary Clinton. A far, far better book than What Happened, written by my third cousin once removed, Hillary, the only book in history for which the cover answered its own question.
Thanks for damning me with faint praise. Here, by the way, here's the cover of the book. You can order it on Amazon.com or at HowieCarrShow.com. Click on store.
It is really good. I really have to encourage every conservative and Republican to read this book. It is, first of all, you'll learn a lot of things you didn't know. Second of all, it is such a joy. It is the grin I don't think left my face from the beginning to the end, reliving this wonderful event and kind of learning what was going on back behind the scenes. But the title says it all, doesn't it? A lot of Trump critics on the right insist this wasn't a binary election. Oh, Trump isn't that great. He tweeted some awful thing. He doesn't hold his Chardonnay glass by the stem. We were headed for 4 to 8 years of Hillary Clinton, 12 to 16 years of Democrat rule. That awful woman who campaigned on gutting the First and Second Amendment, who called conservatives deplorable and irredeemable. How bad would it have been had Hillary won?
Oh, it would have been awful. I mean, I was prepared for the worst. That when it was on election day, I thought it was over. Again, a lot of people don't realize that the First and the Second Amendments, and probably more, were on the table. I mean, she had publicly said she was going after gun rights and free speech. She called it Citizens United and the Heller decision on the Second Amendment. But read between the lines. That's what she was talking about: the
right.
First Amendment and the Second Amendment. And she would have put on some extreme liberal on the Supreme Court. They would have they would have had the majority 5-4, maybe 6-3. It would have been horrible. Open borders, unvetted immigration from terrorist influenced countries. It just would have been a total disaster. Confiscatory tax rates, deficits out of control. It would have been horrible. It was we got a break. The United States of America got a break on November 8th, 2016.
That's what it felt like. It felt like a relief. And you write in the book, you say, quote, "Now it would be up to a thrice-married, potty-mouthed, one-time casino-owning billionaire from Queens to defend Adams's moral and religious people, to be the last conservative standing athwart the tide of history," as William F. Buckley once wrote, yelling, "Stop." I think you're right. What does that tell us about our political culture? 50 years ago, we had a bookish Catholic wasp from Yale to bring the conservatives to victory. Now we need a bore from Queens. What does that mean about our culture now?
Well, just obviously the culture has been coarsened, but I think Adams people. I referred to John Adams saying that you need a religious, moral people to keep a republic. I think John Adams' descendants, the people he was talking about, they understand that they are and were up against the wall, and they needed a bodyguard. I quoted Tucker Carlson before he took over Bill O'Reilly's slot, and he was writing, I think it was in Politico, and he said they're not looking for a moral exemplar, they're looking for a bodyguard.
Right.
And it's the same thing. That's why Stormy Daniels, CNN and MSNBC can have all the fun they want with Stormy Daniels, but that's not going to cost Donald Trump any votes.
It will not cost him one single vote. And if they think that is what is going to bring this guy down, they're living in a fantasy. Now, I think you were Donald Trump's last interview before the polls closed on election night. Did he think that he was going to win? Did you have that sense from him?
Well, I don't think he still would have been working the phones, at 6:30 on election night if he hadn't thought he was going to win. The night before the election eve, I was in Manchester broadcasting for my affiliate up there, and then we went over to the rally that he had, and that's where he pulled the letters out from the letter from Bill Belichick, the coach of the New England Patriots, endorsing him, and of course he'd been endorsed earlier, more or less, by Tom Brady, the quarterback, and but after he left Manchester that night, he flew to Grand Rapids, Michigan, and he had a rally at 12:30 in the morning in Election Day in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And that's why I laughed when I saw Michael Wolff's book earlier this year saying, oh, he didn't really think he was going to win. He didn't even want to win. Come on. You don't go to a rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan at 12:30 in the morning on Election Day if you don't want to win. And he obviously wanted to win. I mean, he's still angry about losing New Hampshire. I saw him right after Christmas at Mar-a-Lago. And he was asking me about New Hampshire because I'm on 8 stations in New Hampshire, and he said, why did they pass such a weak voter law?
This is the same day registration, right?
Same day registration, right? There were 6,000 people did same day registration on Election Day. And he lost the state by 3,000 votes. And Kelly Ayotte, the Republican senator, lost her Senate seat by 1,000 votes. And according to New Hampshire law, you have 6 months after you vote as a same-day registrant to transfer your driver's license. And the Secretary of State's office in New Hampshire did a study, and of the 6,000 people who took ballots under the same-day registration law, only 1,000 of them re-registered. So wow. That means that the election probably was stolen from him, and it was definitely stolen from Kelly Ayotte, and he's very disturbed about that. And he keeps every time I've talked to him since the election, he's brought up New Hampshire, and I'll bet I'll bet he's still thinking about it.
That's so interesting because from the Michael Wolff book, you say, oh, he doesn't care. He was just joking. He didn't really want to win. But when you talk to people who know the guy, who have spoken to him about it, he's tracking everything. And I would not be surprised at all. People have no idea what it's like on the ground. I have seen buses of voters come in across state lines. You see these things happen at polling places, and the Democrats are just better at it than we are. And speaking of another aspect of the Democrat political establishment, let's forget about Hillary for a second, or hopefully forever. I see you write in the book about the mainstream media's incestuous relationship with Democrats, and it's even more shocking than I had realized. I spent half of my life harping on the mainstream media, but the relationships you describe are staggering. How against Trump was the deck stacked in 2016?
It was totally stacked. You see the surveys they do every once in a while, how many positive stories versus negative stories he gets, and it's over 90% negative. But I think the problem, Michael, is that when I was coming up in the mainstream media, what you did was you started out, whether you were in TV or newspapers, which I was in both, you started out at like a regional newspaper or a regional TV station, and you worked your way up to a major market. But now, as I said in what really happened, the way you move up now is you're a Democrat operative, and that's most of these people that are you see on the cable news shows have never been reporters. They've never covered a fire. They never covered the police beat. They never covered the county commissioners. Look at who you have. You have Stephanopoulos, Clinton's spokesman. You have Jake Tapper. He was he worked for Chelsea Clinton's mother-in-law, who was a congressman, and her husband went to prison for bank fraud. He was a congressman too. Still owes $10 million. He hasn't made restitution for. You have Chuck Todd from NBC. He was a spokesman for Tom Harkin, one of the stolen valor senator from Iowa, who claimed he was a combat pilot in Vietnam. He was a pilot, but just on cargo planes. I mean, these people, I guess Tim Russert and Chris Matthews started the trend. Right. They were both aides to Democrat politicians. Matthews to Tip O'Neill, the speaker, and Russert to Daniel Patrick Moynihan. But that's the way you move up. And they're always, all of them are so married into it. I could just go on for an hour just talking about all the people who are married in. Oh,
David Gregory's wife, right? She was always representing the Clinton aides.
Right, she was representing all the people in the email, the email scandal, and she got them all, grants of immunity. And
That's right.
Savannah Guthrie is married to one of Al Gore's people, and Christiane Amanpour was married to James Rubin, the Clinton State Department spokesman. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And look at Chelsea Clinton gets the job at NBC. And
it's the most highly paid internship in the history of the world.
Right, $600,000, and she's the only intern, Michael, who ever had her own producer.
I clearly was doing internships wrong. I really should have demanded more in my negotiations. One title I want to ask you about, Chapter 4, you title "Never Complain, Never Explain." Why is that?
Well, that's an old saying from a Boston mayor, James Michael Curley, and that's what he always said. Never respond to criticism. And I used that one time. I was with Trump on going up to a rally in Bangor, Maine, because he for someone who didn't want to win the presidency, he knew how Maine operated. They separate the congressional districts in the Electoral College vote. So he knew he couldn't take Southern Maine, but he could take Northern Maine, and he did. So he kept going back to Bangor and Northern Maine and Central Maine to campaign. So I went with him one day from Boston to campaign in Bangor, and I decided I was going to get a good response from the crowd. So it was being live streamed. It was on cable TV. So I said, and our senator in Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren. and so like 2 minutes later, I'm walking off the stage, and one of Trump's aides says, "They're already coming after you, Howie." And he shows me on his cell phone. They were already attacking me on Politico and everything. So, and I thought it was a joke, because, I mean, how can it be racist? She's not an Indian. She's a white person masquerading as a Native American. So I didn't really care. But right. So we were on the plane back to New York after the rally. And I told Trump what had happened, and he said to me, "Whatever you do, Howie, don't apologize. Don't apologize." He said, "Remember Jimmy the Greek? He was doing okay till he said he was sorry. Then it was like that." And
That's
I said,
right.
"Yeah, I know." And then I told him about the quote from James Michael Curley: "Never complain, never explain."
I like that you're quoting Curley and Trump is quoting Jimmy the Greek. That's a beautiful image. I have one last question before we let you go. I know we're on a tight time limit here. Trump 2020. There's no Hillary to save us from. Will Trump be able to muster the same coalition to defeat whichever other old geriatric socialist they drum up? Or is the Trump victory primarily about saving America from Hillary Clinton?
I don't know the answer to that question, Michael. I said at the end of my book that I didn't know if he's like a one-off guy like a Julian the Apostate, the Roman emperor. He was the last pagan emperor. His parents were Christians. He tried to bring it back, and he was the one guy. Or Oliver Cromwell. The new model army. It was he seemed to be a game changer until he wasn't a game changer. I don't know how it's going to play out. I certainly hope he gets another 4 years, because that's he needs that to even begin to drain the swamp and the deep state.
Of course. Well, one hopes that he can pivot. Luckily with the Democrats, we can always count on them to shoot themselves in the foot. So maybe they'll run an even more unlikable, desiccated socialistic candidate next time. We'll just have to see.
I suggest.
I think that's an endorsement. I don't think she's
going to make it, unfortunately. I don't think she's going to make it.
I really hope they pick this up, that Howie Carr has endorsed the Democrat nominee, Elizabeth Pocahontas Hiawatha Warren, for president. Howie Carr, thank you so much for being here. Listen to his show. Buy this book. It is so enjoyable. I promise it is going to be the most enjoyable reading you do for a while. What Really Happened, How Donald J. Trump Saved America from Hillary Clinton. Howie, I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Michael Knowles. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
He's so diplomatic, isn't he? Just it's unbelievable. We really clearly had a melding of the minds. I should have put on my Pocahontas dress, and then we really could have come together. Howie Carr. So that's all the good stuff about Donald Trump. It does remind me, it does warm the cuckolds of my heart, not the cuckolds, the cockles of my heart, to think about how, what he saved us from, because it really would have been awful. Hillary Clinton was campaigning on gutting the First and Second Amendments. Those were separate tabs on her campaign website. So there is all that. Now we've got to talk about how awful this budget is. I try to defend the president here. I'm a member of a team. I'm on the Republican team. Donald Trump has done great work, so I give him more grace than I would give to Liz Warren, Pocahontas, or whatever. This budget is really, really bad. We're going to talk about how bad it is. But out of deference to my party and president, we're going to do it after the paywall because we have to talk about that. I also have to talk about John Bolton. What a wonderful, amazing appointment this is, and why people get him totally wrong. They treat him like a caricature. We'll delve a little bit more into John Bolton. But if you are on Facebook and YouTube, you're not on YouTube, but if you're on Facebook, go to dailywire.com right now, then you hear the whole thing. What do you get? For $10 a month, $100 annual membership, you get me, you get the Andrew Klavan Show, you get the Ben Shapiro Show, you get to ask questions in the mailbag. Now, everybody can listen to the mailbag, but only subscribers can ask the questions. Many are called, but few are chosen. Same thing with the conversation. You can ask questions in the conversation. Next up, I believe, is the Supreme Lord of the Multiverse himself, Andrew Klavan. You get all of that, but none of that really matters. What you really need is the Leftist Tears Tumbler. Now, obviously, mine is parked outside in Manhattan. You know, the leftist tears are just constantly flowing. It reminds me, I lived in Manhattan during Hurricane Sandy. It reminds me a lot like that. So I've got it parked out there so I can ride it all the way back down to the financial district where I'm staying. You have to go get that. I also would like to put in one little plug, because we're here at National Review. They've been very nice to us. The William F. Buckley Jr. program at Yale is hosting the Disinvitation Dinner. They do this dinner every year where they take some speaker who's been disinvited from a college campus and they give him a speech to give. It is a really wonderful dinner. I was, I think, the first fellow of the Bill Buckley program at Yale, or in the first year of student fellows. It's a wonderful program, one of the few things that is pushing intellectual diversity on college campuses. I can't speak highly enough of it. That dinner is going to be addressed by Charles Murray this year. Charles Murray is wonderful. So that will be Wednesday, April 18th. That will be at the Metropolitan Club in New York City. Black tie optional. It's going to be super chic. So if you're interested, check it out at the Buckley program. Reach out to them. It is a wonderful event. If I can be in town, I certainly will be attending it myself. Okay, go to dailywire.com. We'll be right back to talk about all the bad Trump. I try to resist this the best I could. You know, Ben does the good Trump, bad Trump thing. I really try to resist that. I am a partisan. He is my guy. I really want to defend him. This budget is so terrible. This budget is so phenomenally terrible. I can't get over it. In the past, we know that Donald Trump has called for budgets that will end the Tiger program, grants for transportation projects from the Obama stimulus, that will end ARPA-E, an Obama-era energy research agency, that ends the CDBG, which is an urban slush fund. The CBGB, I don't know, the ABCDEFG, all of these agencies, all of this constant funding. He said, we got to slash that. We got to cut that. We need to fund the wall. Mexico's going to pay for it. We'll build this big wall. We need $23 billion to build the wall. What happened in the actual budget? Triples the funding for Tiger, doubles the CDBG. It boosts ARPA-E budgets. It increases the Energy Department renewables budget by 14%. The Energy Department should not exist. I believe this was the department that Rick Perry forgot the name of that he was going to cut. This department should not exist. We should be slashing its funding. We're now increasing its renewables budget 14%. It increases non-military spending $63 billion. We should be slashing non-military spending. There's no cut in funding to sanctuary cities, as was promised and threatened. There are no new detention facilities for illegal aliens. It doesn't eliminate the National Endowment for the Arts or the National Endowment for the Humanities, as Donald Trump promised. Not that I think we need to end those things. I don't really care. It's not a lot of money, but doesn't do it. Doesn't cut Pell Grants, doesn't cut Head Start, the Obama education program, doesn't cut funding to the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, or the CDC, Center for Disease Control, both of which are extraordinarily wasteful and get involved in things that they have no business being involved in. It even maintained the EPA's level of funding. The EPA, villain number one. Scott Pruitt has done a great job at that agency, slashing the bureaucracy, but they're maintaining their funding, which is outrageous because they're cutting their staff. It rolls back a ban on the CDC researching guns as a disease. It actually, so right now, there's a ban. The CDC can't research guns as a disease because, as you might realize, guns are not a disease. They're a constitutionally protected civil right. The Democrats have always wanted to research them as a disease because they want to pretend that every terrible thing they don't like, freedom, liberty, defense of our civil rights, that's a disease